Hello, Ogre 27 Kane here today, talking about Tactics Ogre Reborn for Nintendo Switch. This will not be a full review, but rather just touch on the story, combat, new updates, features, and graphics. But most importantly, whether or not it's worth the triple dip for some of us. And the triple dip implies the PS1 release, PSP release, and now this current release. For me, it is such. Being such a long-time fan of the series, it was an instant day one purchase. I've been waiting for a remaster or a remake or anything from this series for a while now, and I'm finally happy. I'm not picky at all. This is episode 7 of Tactics Ogre, of the Ogre Battle Saga, and it's a great entry regardless. Now let's get into this. I have a lot to talk about. I need to keep my excitement in check, and most importantly, I need to tell you about one of my favorite games of all time. Alright, let's get into the history and the story of this universe. From everything I can tell, everything picks up with Episode 5, which is March of the Black Queen for the PlayStation 1 and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. This deals with the kingdom of Zenobia and the age of Zetegenia. It deals with Lons, the White Knight, Tristan the King, so on and so forth. But it goes from there to episode 6, which I believe is Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber. And that deals with the mainland continent and Palanthus and the Lotus's meddlings there in that area, in that region. This is episode 7. It's an island of Valeria, which is off the coast of the mainland, and once again, another area where Lotus has been meddling with everything. And Lotus's mission, of course, is to not only bring their religion, but their science to the world. And by science, I'm talking about some of the more sinister things like the ogres in the nether realm and the dark king of the ogres that you face in the earlier game. But in this game, Lance Tartarus, he's the leader of the Dark Knights, is kind of the puppet master wielding Lotus's power over the island, and he kind of utilizes his influence to affect things non-violently in his fashion, even though it incites violence around the island. But he doesn't see it that way. He personally does his will with what he will, if you know what I mean. There are all kinds of other lower puppets, if you will, that try to manipulate things, such as the two you're seeing on screen here. The Duke, Ronway, he's a very polarizing guy. You end up having to make a very important choice early on, and it's not necessarily a good choice. You'll determine whether or not you like that guy or not. I'm not going to speak for that one. Bishop Branton of the Bakram is definitely the focus of your first part of the game, the early part of the game. He becomes who you envision as what a bad guy would be. But as the story unfolds and you kind of learn more about what's going on in the world and everything else, you kind of see things a little differently and begin to open your eyes. Alright, let's talk about some combat and battle systems. Some of the coolest parts. Even though this game is really old in terms of video game years, it still was not just the Godfather. It invented the wheel. It is the first one, but it does everything absolutely right. Everything's clear, everything's concise, all of the weapons have their purpose, all of the creatures have their purpose. It really goes out of its way to give you as much flexibility that you could possibly want with your team. There's a lot of strategy involved here. If you want to go things head first and have a team of knights that can bear the brunt of all your attacks, if you want to sit back and use archers and mages and just take your time and whittle away the enemy, it really just depends on your playstyle. The nice part about this game versus the other Ogre Battle games is how you utilize your attacks doesn't affect your chaos frame in the same sense. Most of your decisions in this game are what affects your chaos frame. So you can go about your go about your business with your main character any way you want to. You can make him a mage or a knight or any form or fashion that you want to. Some characters obviously are going to be a little more OP than others. Utilizing something on the lines of a Dark Knight is going to give you some really awesome powers, versus, a fairy or something. But there's plenty of variation with the character classes. There are ninjas, there are samurais, there are knights, valkyries, seraphs, dragons, all kinds of different dragons. So I totally recommend checking this game out. Anyways, let's get into the next. Okay, graphics and animations. This has definitely been updated from the original PS1 release that I played. Back in 480, it still looked pretty good on those old CRTs, but nothing to what it looks like nowadays. The PSP release looked really clean and smooth. A lot of the updates that they did in the graphics and animations departments on that release have been translated over, and they definitely, updated the frame rate, they updated the pixel count, all of that. But now it's been even done better on this version. I know that at first there was a lot of talk about there being like smoothing and filters over it and whatnot, but I really truly believe that they went back in and just updated every single animation and every single picture and frame. It looks the same as it did back then, just a whole lot cleaner and a whole lot nicer. You're not going to hear me complaining one bit about any of these updates here. The graphics look really clean, really, really smooth, and the Switch doesn't have any problems looking at any of that. So some of the best updates and changes that they've made to this are definitely in the graphics and the menu departments. The menus are a lot easier to use. The skills have been simplified. Everything seems to work a lot better. The Chariot and Tarot system from the PSP release is back, so they just did some minor tweaking with that. But everything seems to be just a little bit better than it was on the PSP. Well, in conclusion, I think this game is worth every penny. They took their time remastering it. It certainly looks a little bit better and runs a little bit better than the Chrono Cross remaster. Even though that game is near and dear to my heart, I can admit that they should have spent more time with it. This game looks like it got the love and attention it needed. It's one of the best games on the PlayStation 1, the Super Nintendo, and the PSP. And seeing all those updates included in this game make it worth every penny to me. If you want to see where these kind of games came from, if you want to see the father of all strategy RPGs, come and check this out. It'll be worth every minute of your time. Well, thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe. Ogre27 Kane, sharing some of my favorite video games of all time. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day.